Section 2 of Reviews by Oscar Wilde. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, go to LibriVox.org. Reviews by Oscar Wilde, edited by Robert Ross. Section 2, A Modern Epic, read by Patty Brugman.
Pall Mall Gazette, March 13th, 1885. In an age of hurry like ours, the appearance of an epic poem more than 5,000 lines in length cannot but be regarded as remarkable. Whether such a form of art is the one most suited to our century is a question. Edgar Allan Poe insisted that no poem should take more than an hour to read, the essence of a work of art being its unity of impression and of effect. Still, it would be more difficult to accept absolutely a canon of art which would place the Divine Comedy on the shelf and deprive us of the Bothwell of Mr. Swinburne. A work of art is to be estimated by its beauty, not by its size, and in Mr. Wills's Melchior there is a beauty of a rich and lofty character. Remembering the various arts which have yielded up their secrets to Mr. Wills, it is interesting to note in his poems, here the picturesque vision of the painter, here the psychology of the novelist, and here the playwright's sense of dramatic situation. Yet these things, which are the elements of his work of art, though we arbitrarily separate them in criticism, are in the work itself blended and made one by the true imaginative and informing power. For Melchior is not a piece of poetic writing merely, it is that very rare thing, a poem. It is dedicated to Mr. Robert Browning, not inappropriately, as it deals with that problem of the possible expression of life through music, the value of which as a motive in poetry Mr. Browning was the first to see. The story is this. In one of the little Gothic towns of northern Germany lives Melchior, a dreamer and a musician. One night he rescues by chance a girl from drowning and lodges her in a convent of holy women. He grows to love her and to see her in the incarnation of that Saint Cicely whom, with mystic and almost medieval passion, he had before adored. But a priest separates them, and Melchior goes mad. An old doctor who makes a study of insanity determines to try and cure him, and induces the girl to appear to him disguised as Saint Cicely herself, while he sits brooding at the organ. Thinking her at first to be indeed the saint he had worshipped, Melchior falls in ecstasy at her feet, but soon discovering the trick, kills her in a sudden paroxysm of madness. The horror of the act restores his reason, but with the return of sanity, the dreams and visions of the artist's nature begin to vanish. The musician sees the world not through a glass, but face to face, and he dies just as the world is awakening to his music. The character of Melchior, who inherits his music from his father, and from his mother his mysticism, is extremely fascinating as a psychological study. Mr. Wills has made a most artistic use of that scientific law of heredity which has already strongly influenced the literature of this century, and to which we owe Dr. Holmes's fantastic Elsie Venner, Daniel Deronda, that dullest of masterpieces, and the dreadful Rougon-Macquart family, with whose misdeeds Monsieur Zola is never weary of troubling us. Blanca, the girl, is a somewhat slight sketch, but then, like Ophelia, she is merely the occasion of a tragedy, and not its heroine. The rest of the characters are most powerfully drawn, and create themselves simply and swiftly before us as the story proceeds, the method of the practised dramatist being here of great value. As regards the style, we notice some accidental assonances of rhyme, which in an unrhymed poem are never pleasing, and the unfinished short line of 5 or 6 syllables, however legitimate on the stage where the actor himself can make the requisite musical pause, is not a beauty in a blank verse poem, and is employed by Mr. Wills far too frequently. Still, taken as a whole, the style has the distinction of noble melody. There are many passages which, did space permit us, we would like to quote, but we must content ourselves with saying that in Melchior we find not merely pretty gems of rich imagery and delicate fancy, but a fine imaginative treatment of many of the most important modern problems, notably of the relation of life to art. It is a pleasure to herald a poem which combines so many elements of strength and beauty. Melchior, by W. G. Wilde, author of Charles I, Olivia, etc., and writer of Claudian, Macmillan and Company. End of a Modern Epic by Oscar Wilde, edited by Robert Ross, and read by Patty Brugman.